94.7 The Cave. KKLH, Marshfield, Springfield. A proud member of the Kansas City Chiefs radio network.
Touchdown, Kansas City!
Now, it's time for Ned Talk.
And here we are on a glorious Sunday afternoon, getting set for Game 2 of the NFL season. Little recap last week, we had some missed blocking assignments on Josh Roberts' part. There was a drop pass on John Oliver's part. Ned missed some punt coverage, and I got a sprained ankle. But other than that, we got the win. We're going to take it. We're coming out strong for week 2. I think we learned from our mistakes last week, and we're ready to be better this week. Don't you guys agree?
They are a very, very good football team. Very good football team, and on paper, they are the best in the NFL. However, hearkening back to the days of Pete Rozelle on any given Sunday.
I wasn't talking about them, Ned. I was talking about us, which just proves
I haven't had any fractured ankle.
That you just don't even listen to me anymore. We're just like a married couple.
Partially true, yeah.
You just completely ignore me. That's Ned Reynolds. Sitting across from me is John Oliver. John, how are you?
I'm good. The ball hit me in a bad place. It hit me in the hands.
Oh, no excuses. No excuses. No excuses on this team. And how are you, Josh Roberts?
Oh, I'm doing great, and I did not miss that many blocking assignments.
You missed a couple, and it was obvious. Ned got sacked that one time.
Yeah, well.
He had to scramble out of the pocket a couple of times.
No. Ned Reynolds is way beyond the scramble.
I've seen you scramble in here a few times. So let's talk about this for a second. We spent a lot of time last week talking about how there was a blueprint to beat the Chiefs. If there was a blueprint to beat the Chiefs, obviously, if you watch that game, there is a blueprint for the Chiefs because they played that game just about like they played every game for the last 3 years.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, in all honesty, and watching the game unfold, all I could think of was the Super Bowl game against the 49ers because it mimicked that 100%. 49ers, like the Cleveland Browns, owned the game. Owned it until one stretch in the fourth period.
Yep.
Of course, in the Browns-Chiefs game, well, it was his fourth period as well. The mistakes happen for a period of about, 5 minutes, and then it falls apart. And that's what Kansas City will do to you. That's the pressure they put on there. It's also the pressure of playing at Arrowhead Stadium. Care what anybody tells you, that punter for Cleveland, when he dropped that snap, partially you can attribute that to the crowd's noise.
Yep, I agree.
I was sitting there thinking while watching the game, Kansas City reminded me of an old school heavyweight boxing champion, a guy that could just walk out in the middle of the ring and take shot, just kind of move their feet around, not do a whole lot for 3 or 4 or 5 rounds. And then about the time you come out and your arms start to feel like lead, that's when they start opening up. That's when they start.
The description you just made, that analogy was vintage Rocky Marciano. That's exactly how he fought. He'd get blasted out there in the center of the ring until he got you up against the ropes for a brief period and break your ribs and your gut and everything else. And, that's how he won.
Yeah, it was an interesting game because it was vintage Kansas City. We didn't see anything different in how they played the game. I know there was a lot of especially saw Sexy Rex Ryan talk about this Monday on ESPN. All the punter has to do is catch the ball, and the Browns win the game. And I don't think that's true because they were giving Patrick Mahomes the football back with a ton of time to score in that game. So I don't think I was like, well, the Chiefs are going to win this if they get the ball back, period. They're just going to win this game. So I don't think you can just drop it all on that poor kid who muffed a pump. That's the only thing that I thought when I heard the criticism the next day.
But if you avoid the mistakes, I think that's what Ryan made more than anything else. Like the pick, the fumble by Kareem. Was it Chubb or was it Hunt who fumbled?
I think it was Kareem Hunt.
I think it was Kareem Hunt.
Yeah. That was a key fumble because the Chiefs turned it into a touchdown. Yes, Mahomes. Josh and I were talking about this. Mahomes gets so much headline credit for that tremendous pass that he made. He's not the guy who deserves the credit. It's Tyreek Hill who deserves the credit for it. Stopping in his route that he's running across the field, catching it, turning around and catching. Of course, pass is underthrown. And then just sprinting past the defender. He's the guy who made the score.
One of the things that really blew me away about this game, John, was How often do teams just drop coverage on Travis Kelce?
It's amazing to me. You know, when you look at the blueprint, I would think that one of the first things you need to do is make sure Kelsey's not over the middle and open. Mm-hmm. But time and time again, he's just so good at getting open. And, you know, defenders give up on him for whatever reason.
Well, that cover two or that shell defense doesn't work with him because he finds the open. He's great at finding the open spot.
Yeah, not in
middle
the least.
Of the field.
Yeah, he's excellent at that.
But vintage Kansas City performance.
Oh, my gosh. This was, you know, you said it reminded you of the Super Bowl, and I agree. I felt that way. You know, I was a little worried, you know, in the third quarter. I was like, oh, I don't know. And the punt return, we talked about this a little bit off the air, Ned. So I'm not going to blame the guy because there is a lot of crowd noise. Things like that happen. It was a big momentum swing, though, and what makes it more of a momentum swing with the Chiefs is when something like that happens, whether they're down by 2 touchdowns or up by 2, Kelce, Mahomes, Hill, they are all waving their arms in the air at Arrowhead and getting that crowd worked into a fervor. I don't think you can underestimate, you know, the sixth man or whatever you want to call it
12.
At Arrowhead. Yes. The 12th man, yes.
Just got the team in half there.
Yeah.
Josh, what did you think of the game?
Well, there were moments when I was thinking to myself, why are they getting so cutesy? Why don't they just do what they do? Because that's the thing with the Chiefs is they have so much talent. If they do ultimately what they started doing in that game, getting the ball to Kelce over the middle, getting the ball out in the flat, doing the things that are nearly unstoppable with that team, they win. Mm-hmm. And so I was impressed with the fact that they shifted gears and they started playing, like you said, their classic old school Chiefs football, because that's all they need to do until somebody can stop Kelce over the middle. Why would you not throw the ball to him all the time?
Let's change gears because we've been talking a lot about the offense, but this is the same defensive team that we've seen over the last few years. Spagnola's, we're going to take your best shot for the first 2 or 3 quarters of this. You're probably going to be able to score off of us, but we're going to keep it close enough that our offense can win the game. And then in crunch time, we're going to come up with big stops. That's going to bite you in the ass eventually, don't you think?
It will. But when is the question? And is it going to be this? Well, it did last year in the Super Bowl. But is it going to be a Super Bowl game this year when that happens? That's a very interesting point you bring up, Joe, because it is. I'm not going to call it porous. That's not the case. But the defense does bend as opposed to break. And you saw that with Cleveland's running game. That's why I'm anxious about tonight's ball game coming up, because Baltimore has no running backs. We're going to the old folks home, and the guys who are my age out there playing right now. Latavius Murray.
Is OJ in jail right now? Can he suit up?
No.
I saw Adrian James at the Colts game today. They can probably suit him up.
But we're seeing a veteran crew. Devontae Murray is in there, and hey, these are guys who are way beyond their prime, but they have no options. The other 14 people on the injured list and out. So how or what Baltimore is able to do, which against the Kansas City defense tonight, I think is going to be symbolic of what the Chiefs are going to do all year long, because it shouldn't be very much, in all honesty.
Right.
Let's talk about this. Start an early round table here. I think when I went into this game, I expected to see something different from the Chiefs, and a little bit disappointed that I didn't see it. It was just the same thing. Not even packaged differently. It was all the same thing.
Describe different. What did you expect?
Well, I don't know. I expected the defense to be a little bit better. I expected, the offensive line did a good job. I mean, Patrick Mahomes was not sitting on his back most of the game like he did in the Super Bowl. So, I mean, but it was the same Chiefs. It was the same Chiefs that we've seen for the last few years. And while that's a great thing, I guess I don't know my expectation. How much better do you get than better than the best?
Maybe that's it.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't get any better. Now, I want you to guys, we're going back into history here a little bit, but Andy Reid with the Philadelphia Eagles also had that same level of criticism. His teams in the early 2000s, great teams, had the personnel to do it, and as a result, the Eagles won. But then when they did not have the personnel to do it, did he change? No, he did not, because the year he was canned, they had 14 losses. And that, well, I'm not saying that's going to happen here, but you do have that philosophical approach of, hey, it wins, stay with it, don't change.
Well, let's stop right there, because one of the points that you always bring up is, you know, we live in this Chiefs bubble that we live in. Other teams are out there doing things. The Chiefs need to grow and progress to stay ahead of the curve in the NFL, because you can't continually do the same thing and expect the same results in the NFL.
True.
Right. And in terms of your drafting philosophy, that I think will be very symbolic as to how the Chiefs behave. You'll notice that in past years, they went for the speed and the quickness. They did get some this year as well, but they also went for the offensive line. And that offensive line, they played well. They weren't great, but they played well. But this is, over the course of a season. What are they going to show in the next 16 games that they have? It's kind of a crapshoot in a way.
Yeah.
John, I guess my expectation is the Chiefs come out with a chip on their shoulder. And I don't think they played that way at all. I think they played like, oh, well, that was an anomaly, and we're just going to go on and pick up right where we left off. What do you think?
Here's the only thing I'm going to disagree with you about on that. And, you know, you made a point, we've talked a lot about the offense. So one of the hallmarks for the Chiefs that I've seen is the games they lose, nobody comes up big on defense. I saw the tide turning. First, Chris Jones got through and annihilated Mayfield. That was a big turning point. Then you had Dan Sorensen, who's in there, you know, Tyrann Mathieu is out for that game, made a huge play. And then you had Thornhill with the interception. So if guys come up with those big plays on defense, I think that's what puts the game away for the Chiefs. The times I see them struggle is when that defense doesn't ever break through. But boy, do they rally around that big play. And as soon as Jones got through, everybody on the defense, I visibly saw step quicker, more engaged, back in the game.
Yeah, well, you could tell a big difference in the Chiefs' rush. What I saw the game, because I really came in the second half of the game, you saw a big difference with the team and the rush late in that game, that they had worn down that Cleveland offensive line and were able to get to Baker Mayfield. They were able to put pressure on him, and you could just tell the tide was going to change at that point because of the way the defense played. Josh, your thoughts on the game?
Well, as a longtime Alabama fan, I'm all for keeping things the same until they don't work. And so that's why I go back to, when you look at what works for the Chiefs offensively, there's no reason for them to change anything. And the problem that they tend to run into is when they do get cutesy and try to do trick plays and stuff, if they don't work, they're putting them in such a hole that's what hurts them. Defensively, I think they looked better than I thought they were going to look. I think that the secondary still needs to gel a little bit, but they didn't have Tyrann Mathieu playing yet that game. I thought that the defensive line, like you guys are saying, kind of took over in the second half, which was nice to see. But I want to see a game where their defense dominates from start to finish, so that the offense, if they want to do some silly trick plays, they can without it hurting them.
Josh, I don't think, in all honesty, I don't think there's a team on the schedule against whom that's going to happen.
Right.
It's a very tough schedule they have, and you can see the fallibility with going through 23-0, which they won now. I can see some failures coming up.
You're listening to Ned Talk on 104.7 The Cave, your local live sports talk show. We have finished up our first regular season broadcast. We're on to our second. We had some good practices this week, guys. I was really impressed with the way everybody really brought it, worked on the things we needed to work on. Ned, you were especially good in the film room. Really good. Really good in the film room. I had to say that to you, that we really spent a lot of time breaking things up.
How do you spell that film anyway?
What else did you see from the Chiefs last week? What impressed you, and on the other hand, worried you about the Chiefs? We'll start with you, Ned.
Speed doesn't worry me. It impresses me. They have such quickness, and it isn't just on offense. They have very quick rallying defense. Now, that's not to say they're necessarily strong hitters. They are not. And you could see that Chubb was able to break some, as was Kareem Hunt, some tough runs. And you've got a lot of tough runners, not tonight, certainly, but tough runners in this league who are going to challenge them. And you better wrap up these guys and throw them. Defensive line, yes, Chris Jones is there, but you run around him. Hey, just run away from the guy, and you don't have that to worry about. Do you have the kind of defense on offensive line and defensive line that can guard against a wide-open offense? I don't know, because that hasn't been shown yet. Mayfield's offense is not wide open. It's very direct and formatted as to what he's going to do. But tonight, against Lamar Jackson, yes, this was more of an ad-lib offense. I don't think they're good enough to even challenge the Chiefs because they don't have the personnel. But the philosophical approach is one that the Chiefs, there just may be some liabilities on the Chiefs' defense that could cost them. I don't think it'll happen, but.
What about you, John?
You know, one thing we haven't talked about, and I want to point out, is how good our special teams unit is. You know, that's the bonus with being so deep with talent at the receiver and, you know, other positions like that, because you see other teams on special teams and they may have a player or two that excels. I feel like everybody on our special teams each year absolutely thrives on downing the football, getting a good hit. There was a gentleman named Stacey Thompson for the New York Giants back in their heyday in the 90s. He flew under the radar, but he made the All-Pro team every single year because he was that good on special teams. I think we're one of the best in the league on that end, and I think that's something that sometimes gets overlooked with this team.
I've got one question for you, and that is, did the Giants ever have a heyday?
Absolutely. Back in the Jeff Hostetler days. Well, they beat the Bills.
Bill Parsons.
So let's
yeah.
you know.
The tuna. Yeah, I forgot about those days. I did. I thought for a second there you said Jets, and I thought,
oh, no.
No. Since Joe Namath, they've not had a heyday.
Right.
What about you, Josh? What were you happy about? What were you unhappy about with the Chiefs' performance?
I'm still a little worried about the defense because they gave up a lot of yards, and not to take too much away from Cleveland. I mean, I'm always going to be a downer on the Cleveland Browns for whatever reason. But that worries me a little bit because if they face, like Ned's saying, if they face an offense that's a lot more wide open and has more talent, then they could be in trouble there. But I was impressed overall with the way that the defense took over in the second half and the consistency that the offense showed for the overall for the game. So, I mean, we'll see. The defense needs to get better.
Well, the B team is here today. Josh Roberts, John Oliver, of course, Ned Reynolds, and myself. We're about, we'll say 40 minutes from the A team taking over. Ned Talk on 104.7 The Cave.
You're listening to Ned Talk on 104.7 The Cave, part of the Kansas City Chiefs Radio Network. Back to Ned Talk on 104.7 The Cave, a proud member of the Kansas City Chiefs Radio Network.
We're about 25 minutes away from the start of the pregame show here on 104.7 The Cave. We are pregame show, your local live sports talk show. NFL Jekyll and Hyde. A lot of parody, as people say. I don't know. It's kind of crazy, but let's talk about the scores right now. 23-13, Broncos over the Jaguars. Right now it's 14-14, Cowboys and Chargers. If the Chiefs were to win and the Chargers were to win this game too, everybody in the AFC West would be 2-0.
Mm-hmm. When's the last time that happened? Because it used to be the Chiefs had already put it out of range by now.
No, I have no clue. Last week, the Saints blew out the Packers.
Mm-hmm.
They got blown out this week by a terrible Carolina Panthers team, 26-7.
Yeah.
The Raiders, 2-0, 26-17 over the Steelers. 49ers, 2-0 over the Eagles, 17-11. Sorry, Ned. The Jets, have they yet to score this season? Oh, wait, they do have 6 points in that game. 25-6, the Patriots beat them. The Mac Jones era begins. The Dolphins looked like they were playing in the ocean today against the Bill. 35-0. Good game between the Rams and the Colts, 27-24. Baker Mayfield bounces back against the Texans, 31-21. The Bears win. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. You heard me. The Bears win. They beat Joe Burrow, the next coming, 20-17. Seahawks win 24 to the other, up 24-16 over the Titans in the third. Chargers Cowboys tied at 14. Buccaneers 28. Falcons 17 right now. And in a good one, the Cardinals and the Vikings 31-30. What did you guys take away from week one, Ned?
Well, the Arizona Cardinals going on the road and beating Tennessee, I thought was an extremely interesting victory. Yeah, the blowout in Jacksonville where Green Bay got slaughtered, I think was an anomaly. I don't think that'll happen again. You know, they've had all the disparity of team unity with Aaron Rodgers around this year or this summer, I should say, and that just doesn't bode well for any kind of gamesmanship nor teamwork or anything like that. However, that also is probably going to be a thing of the past. They'll rally. After all, these are professional athletes, and they have that level of professional pride to succeed. Not that the others don't, but I look for Green Bay to come back. Those two games, I think, were really significant. The Las Vegas Raiders probably should have lost their game. They were playing the Baltimore Ravens, had the ball on the 1 yard line and throw a pick? Oh, come on. That doesn't happen. And yet they came back to win the thing. That may be this year's team of destiny, although I doubt it when they play the Chiefs. They're not as good as the Chiefs.
Well, you just heard Mike the intern just cry. Yeah. Hear it all the way from Midtown.
I don't think that's going to happen, though.
I have to disagree with you one thing about Green Bay. I think maybe this is the year that Green Bay just, it all folds in. Too much stuff going on, too much media surrounding the team, too much Aaron Rodgers, too much. Does he really want to be here? Do we want to play if this guy doesn't want to be here? How much effort should we put into this if the guy that leads the team doesn't want to be here? And that Pat Riley haircut, that's got to go.
You have to remember, Joe, they are also playing with a paycheck in the mail, and that paycheck is dependent on how they perform. No, I don't think it's a matter of if and but and who's going to be around next year. No, they're giving it their best. I don't doubt that at all. But what is there a level of teamwork that might not be there for other reasons? Yes, I think that is a possibility.
John, what did you take away from week one on the NFL season?
From week one, I'm going to say not a lot of surprises. So the Jets are still bad. Honestly,
they're not bad, John. They're horrible.
They are. And then, I think, with the scores you just read in week two, I think some of the trends you're already seeing are, the Jaguars aren't going to be what anybody expected this year. Well, some people probably expected it. And then, the poor New York Giants. I mean, I shouldn't say poor about anything New York because they, of course, had super dynasties, but it is hard being a Giants fan. I don't know that Daniel Jones is ever going to right side and be what I thought he could have been. It's, you're seeing a lot of parity, but you're also seeing some cellar dwellers that are already kind of emerging that look lost after 2 weeks.
You see that in New York sports so much. As a Yankee fan, I see it because, so much pressure on guys like Gary Sanchez and Gleyber Torres to be things that they're not.
Yes.
I mean, Gary Sanchez is a 220 hitter, but he's going to hit 300 home runs. And Gleyber Torres, he's going to get some big hit for you. But the same thing goes with football and basketball, too. You see it a lot with the Knicks. You see it with the Brooklyn Nets. But you see it especially in football because there's this almost mentality in the tabloids in New York and the media in New York that if you get a good quarterback, if you draft that quarterback, that's all you need. And you look at the Jets, I mean, they're already looking at the number one pick next year. Mm-hmm. And are they going to draft another quarterback? I mean, what's going to happen here?
Right. We've talked about the futility with the New York Jets quarterback club, that club of sadness.
Yeah.
And then,
those guys aren't bad. I mean,
no.
None of them are bad. Mark Sanchez is going to be remembered for the butt fumble.
Oh, he was
that's totally
good quarterback.
He was a good quarterback. Yeah. And that's not to blame him for something that a lineman got pushed back into him. Mm-hmm. That's to blame that you've never put an offensive line in front of quarterbacks to save their lives.
Right. And I mean, there is a pressure cooker in New York, and guys respond differently in every single sport. They rode Eli Manning into the ground.
Yeah,
and
he was a great quarterback.
He's a Hall of Famer, surefire as far as I'm concerned. And I can't imagine most Giants fans would not be on their hands and knees to have him back at this point after the last 2 years.
Oh, yeah, but he's not coming back from Monday Night Football, that's for sure.
No.
What about you, Josh?
Okay, here are my takeaways. The Jets are bad.
He was ready.
The Jacksonville experiment has failed. I have mixed feelings because I love Alabama, but I hate the Patriots.
Can we just not talk about Alabama?
Well, but I mean, Mac Jones is a good quarterback, but I hate the Patriots. And I wish
most of us hate Alabama.
Well, that's good. You can hate all you want.
You can hate all you want, too.
I know. And
let's go right now.
And Aaron Rodgers needs a haircut. Those are my takeaways from week 1. Get a haircut, Aaron Rodgers. You look ridiculous.
He does look a little bit ridiculous. So we were talking about this yesterday. We were watching, I was watching college football. Urban Meyer's name's already come up for USC.
It's insanity.
What do you think?
Well, he denied it. He said no.
How many things has Urban Meyer denied?
Nick Saban denied he was leaving the Dolphins until the day he left.
Yeah, but I don't think either of them ever said, no way am I leaving. They said, well, no, not interested, or things of that nature. This is rather definitive on Meyer's part. No way am I leaving where I am now. Now, he may leave because they ask him to. Right. That's a different story.
He may not be the Jacksonville coach, but he's still going to be living in Jacksonville.
Is there any teams that you saw that you were completely impressed with?
Oh, gosh. My club, which went to Atlanta and won 32-6. I don't think that Atlanta is very good, and Philadelphia did lose today, but to a good San Francisco 49ers team. I think the Eagles are probably a little bit better as opposed to what people thought they were going to be. The Denver Broncos are also playing well. They're not bad. In fact, in all honesty, I think maybe all 4 of the teams in the AFC West may be pretty good this year.
Yeah, well, maybe the toughest conference in football this season.
Maybe.
Chargers are a much improved team. The Raiders 2-0 at this point. They looked bad against the Ravens, but still won the game. You got to find ways to win games. That's the bottom line on all this. What about you, John? Anybody that you saw, you were like, this is a good football team?
A couple of them. I made the prediction about the Bengals. They, I think, are much improved. Of course, they lost today, but again, it was a close game. And then, other than them, I'm super, super impressed at how good the Rams have looked, to be honest.
Yeah.
So that's people forget that's a good football team with the Jared Goff drama and with Todd Gurley, that situation. They forget how much talent they have there. That team's going to be right back in the thick of it again.
Matthew Stafford looks different.
He absolutely does.
Younger. He looks like he possibly lost some weight in the offseason. But he just looked different to me when I saw him in that game, and the Rams did look impressive. That would be one of the teams that I would choose. What about you, Josh?
Well, that's what I was going to say. The Rams have looked really good in both their games so far. I was kind of impressed with the Cowboys last week, but they're not really that impressive this week.
Well, they're hanging.
Yeah, they're hanging with the Chargers. Come on. So,
I think quietly, too, anybody has to think in the back of their minds, Seattle.
Yeah.
Russell Wilson. If there's got to be a quarterback right behind Patrick Mahomes in the NFL, it's got to be Russell Wilson. And he does it really quietly. So that's my pick. That's my take on it.
I like that one.
We're coming up on the start of the pregame show. It's happening in just a few minutes. But until then, you got us, Ned Talk on 104.7 The Cave.
You're listening to Ned Talk on 104.7 The Cave, part of the Kansas City Chiefs radio network. Back to Ned Talk on 104.7 The Cave, a proud member of the Kansas City Chiefs radio network.
We are talking sports. That's what we're doing. Getting you set for the game. It's coming up. Well, the pregame starts in about 20 minutes. And then kickoff tonight, 7:20. Chiefs and Ravens, all of it right here on 104.7 The Cave. You guys want to talk college football or you want to talk baseball?
Baseball is coming down to the boiling point now. I think we should address that. Yeah.
Okay, let's talk baseball. I'm really not interested anymore. My team's fading very quickly. So
they're still in it.
Let's just they lost 2 to Cleveland. I turned on the game yesterday. Yankees are my team. Do I get the I'm the Alabama of baseball. I'm a Yankees fan. I sat down to eat lunch. I saw them give up a home run, 1-0. No big deal. Go out, start working on the yard, come back in. About an hour later, 10-0 to Cleveland. And so they are now 9 back, and they are a game and a half back of the Blue Jays and 2.5 back of the Red Sox. So it looks like it'll be the Blue Jays and the Red Sox. But the Cardinals they're there. They're right there in it.
They are, yeah. You've seen a big turnaround with the offense right now. That's the key. You know, the pitching's been decent all year. They've had some real stinkers, but they've gotten their mileage out of J. Happ. They've gotten their mileage out of John Lester, and they've kept them in ball games, and guys are clicking right now offensively.
Wait. I heard a lot of complaints about those 2 pickups at the trade deadline.
You didn't hear them from
Serviceable.
me. Serviceable arms. Sometimes you need those. You need to eat innings.
And by the
when...
same token, though, just as a point of argument, did you see who the San Diego Padres started today? Another one of that group, Arrieta.
Jake Arrieta.
And
oh, my
got
gosh.
bombed for 5 runs in the first inning.
Yes,
Thank
he
you,
did.
sports fans. I know you're going to ask me this anyway, so I'm going to.
okay.
My points are very much influenced by my thoughts on the second team being in the wild card. Wasn't in favor of it in 2012. I'm not in favor of it now. I think it rewards mediocrity. Mm-hmm. Those who are saying that the Cardinals are playing now the way they should have played, now they should have played, yes, but the way they could have played all season, no. The way they could have played is how they played.
Right.
And they are not a championship level team and shouldn't be in the playoffs. All right, now here comes Cardinals Nation down. Get his head. Stomp on him. They will be the second team in the playoffs in a 2-team playoff if they make it, and I think they will. Mm-hmm. They are on a roll right now. They're red hot. If that ends, and it will somewhere along the line, how does it collapse? And what does it represent about this baseball team? Mm-hmm. They're playing great. They are playing great now. They're getting the key hits. They're also getting a little bit of luck, a 3-run homer in the 8th inning when you're down by, 2-1. I think the score, a 2-run homer, I should say, not 3-run. And then today, you get 5 runs in the first inning, win 9-8. Is that what it was? Or 8-7?
I think it was 8-7. 8-7. Yep.
Well, all right. They get the Brewers for 4 straight games, get the Cubs for 3 games in Chicago. This is 7 games on the road, and then they end the season at home. I think they are probably pretty well set because they're 3.5 games ahead of San Diego. Mm-hmm. I think they're 3.5 ahead of the Cincinnati Reds, too. Philadelphia could sneak in there, but I don't have any confidence in the Phillies at all. I think the Cardinals are in. I think they have that wild card for what it's worth, which is a 1-game playoff with probably the Dodgers. I think the Dodgers are going to be the one, although that's hardly in stone right now. It could be the Giants, but wherever it is, it'll be on the West Coast at that park. Then you run in 1 game. Season could be over after that 1 game. Then you're a best of 5 after that. So there's so steep a road to go through. Your viability as a baseball team is going to be put to a test.
Keep in mind that 1-game playoff will likely be Scherzer or Kershaw versus, and I don't think you can start anyone but Wainwright.
Adam Wainwright, have to be.
Who's a potential Cy Young candidate this year?
I think he deserves some looks. I really do.
16 wins with a team like that. He did pitch last night, and he got battered around last night, but that's going to happen. It's the way he has learned to pitch, and he is pitching so well, and he is going to be back next year. I think he does deserve some looks, but so do guys like Walker Buehler and people like that.
The Cubs are out of it, Josh, so I know you don't really care. Do you want to talk about Alabama?
Well, I was going to say baseball season ended with the 2021 fire sale in Chicago, so I hope the New York Islanders win the World Series.
If it wasn't for that second wild card team, we have 2 races, really, that are going on at this point, and that is Phillies have made a nice comeback.
They have.
They are 1 game behind the Braves in a what is a mediocre division. I mean, the leading team is the Braves, who's the 76-70 record.
Joe, can I interrupt for just a split second?
No, because you don't
I'm going to just for a split second. Therein lies the backing of my argument. Philadelphia stands a greater chance of winning their division than they do of getting a wild card.
That's true.
Now, how can that be?
I don't know. I don't know what to do about that because you see it in almost all sports.
Yeah.
Well, and every sports fan wants more opportunities for their team to be in the playoffs.
Well, then make it for everybody.
Yep.
Make it for everybody. Use all 30 teams in Major League Baseball and let them play the season. Doesn't mean anything at all. Then have them do the playoffs.
Well,
It's hockey.
It becomes hockey, yeah. Or NBA.
Or the NBA, yeah.
Pretty much the NBA.
The regular seasons mean nothing in those two sports because 16 teams make it to the playoffs.
Well, let's start body checking in baseball, too. And see
Now that, I'm all for that.
What did Carlin want? I think landmines in the outfield.
Oh, he's coming home.
See what I would like. What I would like to see, when we talk about playoff situations, is that they've talked about letting all the teams in the NCAA play in the tournament. And it only adds like an additional round, I think, to the whole thing.
It's an additional 2 rounds is what it would be.
Rounds.
Because,
let them all in. Let them all play.
Half of them ended at the first game.
Let them all play. Let's see how it turns out.
And
that
who
would
was
be
a backer of that plan, of all people? John Wooden at UCLA. He said, let's not have the argument. Let everybody play. You divide the field in half after the first round, and it goes from there.
And you're playing the entire season for seeding.
Yeah.
And I don't see anything wrong with that. I mean, it gives everybody a chance.
It's hugely frustrating, though, and this happens in the NCAA. If you're that team that, almost ran the table that had 2 losses and you get upset by a team that won 2 games the entire season, it's...
But that's the beauty of basketball is that opportunity seems to still be there.
Yeah.
Well, Josh is naturally going to support that because he likes sports that are rigged from the very top. I mean, you like college football, rigged, soccer, rigged. So those
like
are
hockey. Is it rigged?
Yeah, a little bit.
Oh, no, it's not.
It's just what it is.
Yeah.
Not more than the NFL.
Now, guys,
someday Josh is going to tell you his theory about the NFL on the air, and then we'll
and that'll be the last you hear of me.
We'll open up the phone lines after that. See how that turns out.
Don't even start with that seed of doubt. No, there are strange plays that occur, yes, but there are going to be strange plays in any kind of athleticism. It does happen. But no, I can't see any of it being
strange plays like the referee turning to Tom Brady during a playoff game and saying, "Don't worry, we'll take care of you." Is that what you're talking about?
Exactly.
Is that what you're mentioning?
No.
Back to the thought of every team playing in the NCAA. The college basketball has the infrastructure set up to do that better than any other sport.
Oh, by far.
Yeah.
Because their tournament is so big already.
Yes.
Adding another round or 2 isn't that big of a deal. They've got all the travel logistics and everything. It would be hard for professional sports to do it, I think, just because, especially baseball, just because baseball has such a compact playoff system. So, I mean, they could do it in college football, but nobody would want that.
They're about to do it in college football.
Well, they're going to
close.
add what?
Right now, it's 12.
Oh, are they still talking about 12?
That's the plan, 12. But it's going to go to 16. It will.
Oh, I know it will.
Especially when
Is it 12 this season?
No, not this season. That hasn't been specified when it's going to happen, but it will. No, they already said it will.
Right.
I think they should just do 8.
That's total NCAA BS.
Yes.
You got
Come
it.
on, we're going to go to 12. We're just not going to tell you when.
Well, that's it, though. It's the same with the conferences changing. Oklahoma and Texas. Well, it won't happen until 2025 because that's when the contract ends. Rubbish. They'll be there by 2023.
Yep.
I promise you they will be.
The NCAA is the sports equivalent to a girl that teases. That's exactly what they
There are no such things, are there?
11
Come
minutes
on.
away from the start of the pregame show right here on 104.7 The Cave.
You're listening to Ned Talk on 104.7 The Cave, part of the Kansas City Chiefs Radio Network. Back to Ned Talk on 104.7 The Cave. A proud member of the Kansas City Chiefs Radio Network.
Microphones are on, guys. I really sneak the microphones on for these guys sometimes.
Oh, man.
Let them know what's happening in the studio. It's time for our predictions. Let's start with Mr. Reynolds. What do you think, sir, will happen in tonight's game?
No low contender. I can't see
What?
the Baltimore Ravens even staying on the field with Kansas City. They might early, but KC blows them out of the ballpark. I'm going to say Chiefs 38, Ravens 17.
John.
Using my psychic vision, I'm going to say it's
The great Kreskin is here.
Chiefs 27, Ravens 21. I'm going to have it a little closer.
Ooh.
27-21. Okay, what do you think?
I think Chiefs are going to win by a couple of touchdowns, so I'll say like 24-10.
Okay, let me stop everybody right here because, first of all, last week, my friend Kyra Horn, Kyra, I hope you're listening, she was yelling at me in the car because I picked the Cleveland Browns to win last week, and I explained to everybody, let me go over this again for those of you listening at home, for those of you scoring at home, or those of you that are alone.
You have taken us downhill today, believe me.
I'm picking against the Chiefs all season long because I am so terrible at this. I am so horrible that I feel like that I'm helping the Chiefs by picking against them. And I think this whole exercise is ridiculous.
Just for information, Joe drives a...
It looks like a bread box. Right. This is the score that I pick. I am picking the Ravens, and I think they'll get 1,000 yards rushing in the game tonight. It'll be considered the greatest NFL rushing game ever. They will do nothing but rush in the game, and they will win by a score of 17-1. They will have scored 18, but they will take 1 point away and give it to the Chiefs on a penalty. That's my pick for the game
playing
today.
Canadian football, aren't you?
Yes, that is Canadian. They're going to tell that NBC's going to start the game tonight. Nobody knows this, but I've spoken to Chris Collinsworth, and he said that they're going to go with Canadian rules tonight. Yeah, it was Roger Goodell's trying to throw a little pizzazz in the game right now. Morrison, Webster, and Carlton, they do our player of the week. Who was your player of the week last week, Ned?
You have to give it to Tyreek Hill.
Yes.
I think the guy has such an outstanding game, and as we mentioned earlier, the Hail Mary pass that got so much publicity that Mahomes threw. Yeah, he threw the ball on the run, but it was Hill who made the catch, and that was the key. I'll give it Tyreek Hill.
Who do you think it was, John?
Oh, boy, that's a tough one. I'm going to give it to Sorensen if we're talking about the Chiefs. He came up big.
Yeah, he's either making a big play or he's getting burned.
That's right.
Yeah, feast or famine.
So what is your pick, Mr. Roberts?
I'll say Kelsey.
Really?
He was solid.
My pick for the player of the week is Jamie Gillian. He is the punter for the Cleveland Browns. He is the one that I choose for the player. Boy, I'm really trying to hammer everything home this week. Awesome. Anyway, should be an exciting game. Kickoff is coming up at 7:20 tonight. Art Haynes, Mitch Holtis, Dan Israel, they're coming up next with the Chiefs pregame show, so you don't have to listen to me anymore. Ned, if I'm still alive, I'll see you next week.
And you may not be.
I may not be. I may not be employed this time next week. John, I will see you next week, too. And Josh, you guys have a good one. Jake Collette, I think, will be with us next week, so we have some sheriff figuring out to do.
We're at 10 a.m., I believe.
We're at 10 a.m. next week. Make sure you join us, and whoever's hosting the show right here on 104.7 The Cave, it's Ned Talk.